Hello. This week I'm going to start building my brand new US Airborne army. Some of you may know that I originally had the late war uniform version of the army. Well, basically I decided to part companies with them because I'm now focusing on Normandy, so I always wanted the early uniform. So I let my old army go, and then I've used, some of that money to rebuy all the new stuff in the D-Day outfits. The other thing that I've done, which I did before, is I bought the full range of the Stoessi Band of Brothers figures. So I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of them in total. And I'm going to use them. I'm going to take a few liberties in the build-up of my army. But I'm going to try and utilise the main characters from Band of Brothers as my NCOs and my lieutenants. Obviously, I will be taking a few liberties because it won't be strictly historical, but I'll try and at least hint at that. There is one interloper, another Stoessi figure, Benjamin van der Voort, and obviously he's an interloper from the 82nd Airborne. But basically I'm not going to use him in this army, but I wanted to build him at the same time and paint him at the same time, and then put him over into my 82nd Airborne army instead. But I thought I might as well build him at the same time. Obviously, as you can see, I've got the starter army set, and I've also got another 30 figures here to utilise. In addition, I've got the Captain Maloney Reverend figure, or Parson, that Warlords did. He did feature briefly in the series as well, so I'm going to build him. Obviously, I've got the Winter's special release that Warlord did. I've actually got this in metal as well, but I'm just going to keep that as is and just build up this one to use. And then finally, it's a bit cheeky really, this one. This is a new release from Warlord, Thirsty Work. I don't know whether you saw it. You've got a soldier that you've got a choice. He can either be firing a pistol or drinking a bottle of wine. And making a bit of a cheeky reference to the HBO miniseries, I thought he'd look great as Nixon. So that's what I'm going to do with him. I'm going to use him in some way. And to be fair, the way he was painted up on the site, he did look a bit like Nixon. So I'm not being totally cheeky. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is essentially start to work out what squads and the composition of the army as I build it. So what I'm going to do now is I'll open it all up, get everything out, and then we'll slowly start piecing it together. Right, back soon. Right, so what I've done first is I've been through all of the sprues and all of the figures, and I've given them all a good wash with a bit of, washing up liquid and in the water. Not very much. Give them all a bit of a scrub, just to make sure that I don't get any reactions with my paint work. And then I've gone ahead and just built up all of my special figures, which is mainly the Stoessi ones and some from Warlord. And what I'm going to do now is I've temporarily just gone on and got another month on the Warlord app. It's not that you need to, but I'm just using it to help me focus on what I'm doing. as I'm building it. And basically I'm going to use that to, you know, work out what my squads are and type it in as I do it, you know, so you know, I'm not replicating anything, and I'm making sure that I've got everything covered. I've trimmed off my first 10 men and cleaned them up and got rid of all the mould lines and things. And what I've decided to go with for this first squad is obviously Garnier as my NCO, an additional 2 SMGs because he's got an SMG, and then I'm going to go with 4 rifles, 1 bar, and then I've decided to go with a light machine gun and his loader. So that's going to make up the first squad. So basically all I need to do now, because I've cleaned them all up, is start actually putting them together. So let me just close in on this a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Right, so at this stage I'm not doing anything, you know, like kit bashing. I'm just basically putting them together. And as I say, I've cleaned them all up. It's mainly been, at the moment, about the decision-making process, you know, making sure that I know what I want in each squad and deciding, you know, how to build that squad. So I won't drag you through this whole process of putting them all together, because you've seen me making them up before. If I do anything you know, a little bit different, I'll bring you back for that. But essentially all I'm doing here is, you know, just gluing my figures together. I'm trying to make sure that I get everything lined up. I try to, where possible, give them all a bit of an individual look. I'm just going to stick some extra ammo on him as well. We've made the entrenching tool look a lot more detailed. It's a lot better. Well, the whole figure's better, really. And that's the first figure built. So obviously what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the rest of these, and then I'll clip off the next 10 for the next squad. Right, I'll bring you back soon. So I've cut and cleaned up all of the other figures that I'm going to need for the second squad of the platoon, and also for Winters's, you know, 2 men with him, you know, as the platoon leader. The additions to this platoon are the medic, which obviously I'm having row, but I've also decided to have a bazooka team, so I've prepared that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prepare a sniper team as well to go with this platoon. So what I'll do is I'll take some pictures as I'm going along, and we'll put them together. And when that's done, I'll get on with building these up now that they're all prepared. and then I'll bring you back.
So it's time for a bit of kit bashing here. So I'm cutting this hand out from this rifle because it's got the right pose. And then what I'm doing is I'm filing out the hand to keep the thumb. And that way I can use it to grip this spare helmet. And it's like telling a story. He's popping his helmet on as he sets off for the sniping job. And then it's just a case of making up his spotter. Relatively simple. And then that's my sniper team.
So I've finished my sniper pose. It's nothing special. I just wanted to, give it a bit of character. He's, plonking his hat on to walk off to the next target. And his mate's straightforward. Pair of binoculars for the spotter. So that's my sniper team. And as you can see, I've completed the second squad now. And also Captain Winters. So that's my platoon leader. And obviously these are extras. So I've got my sniper team, as you've just seen. I've got a bazooka team. That's the bazooka man. That's his mate. And then finally, the other optional extra for this platoon was the medic, and I'm just having Row. And I'm not going to give him a support, I'm just going to make it just Row, I think. Time will change, we'll see. But at the minute he's on his own. So that's the first platoon now complete. So what I'll be doing now is stripping off the next batch of figures, and I'll tell you more about what I'm going to build with that as I go on. But first of all, I'll get them off and I'll get some built, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about the composition of it. Right, so this is my second rifle platoon, and basically this is the one that I'm having Buck as the leader of. I've built them, so now I'm going to turn my attention to the two optional extras for this one. That's going to be another sniper and a forward observer. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start, because I need to make some adaptations on these. But what I'll do is I'll take a series of photographs so I can talk you through it, because I think it'd be pretty difficult to film it, because my hands are going to be all over the place, cutting different bits. So they're done, and we'll move on to these, and I'll show you that next.
Right, so it's time for a bit more kit bashing. Luckily I have a sniper rifle from a weapon sprue. So we'll make up the sniper first. So I've got to change the hand arrangements and the arm arrangements for this to get it into the right pose, because I want this one to be in action. So I just need one more hand here, which I get off a spare arm from another sprue. And that brings that up around the rifle. And that gets it in this active pose that I wanted. And now it's time to just make up his spotter, which is again relatively simple. Just got to chop the hand and then use the binoculars with a hand. And that's him made up. And that's my sniper team for my second platoon. Next one's a bit more complicated. I want to make up a forward observer, but I need him to look the part. So I'm going to use this bit of wire, and you see these bits that are hanging off the guns like mould extras. I thought they looked like headpieces and a mouthpiece, so I'm going to use those. And then I've got this little metal piece that I kept. So that's made it up so he's got his headphones and his mouthpiece. I cut this, I don't know where I got this little bit of steel, but I kept it because I thought it looked like a radio. So I trimmed it to size, and then I used a bit more wire to connect it up to the radio on his back. And then it's just a matter of adding a rifle to make up his other arm. And I'm pretty pleased with that. He looks like he's going to play the role of something a bit different. With the binoculars as well, he's looking out. And then just a generic soldier as his accompanier. But it looks the part in the end. So I've completed my second platoon now. And as you've just seen, I've made up my optional extras for this platoon. And what I did, I had to do a little bit of kit manipulation and some spares from another sprue. And I've created another sniper with a different pose. And then just his spotter with him. So that's the first optional team for platoon 2. And then the last one that I've just finished is my forward observer. And that was, I've got to be honest, it was a bit fiddly. But I kept changing my mind as I went along, you know, trying different options. And then I found this piece of metal in my useful box. Now, I don't know whether this was some kind of stowage or what, but I obviously kept it because I thought it looked like something. And I thought, well, that'd make quite a good radio because it's even got like the little buttons on the top. So obviously that's why I took the wire and meshed him up some headphones and a little mouthpiece. And I thought at the very least he's going to represent, you know, he's got the radio, so he'd make a good forward observer. He's got the kit for it. And what did I do with the other one? His mate is just standard. Where is he? Here he is. Just a standard pose, but with a SMG. And that completes the second platoon. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is put together my engineer squad. I've got to clean it all up yet, and I've still got to get a lot of the body parts off. But what I'm thinking of having for this one is I'm going to have my platoon leader as Harry Welsh, and I'm obviously going to be having George Lutz as the NCO in the first group. I've reduced it to 5 because I want to use the men for something else now. And obviously I'm going to have to make up a generic NCO for this squad. The only other thing that I have done, and this was just because I was going through a near empty sprue to see what was left on it, and I noticed there was a Luger. So I decided to make a figure of this guy's picked up a Luger and he's admiring his souvenir. Was it Hubler in Band of Brothers that was after one? I know it ended tragically, but I know it's the kind of thing that a lot of the soldiers were looking for as souvenirs. So he's picked his up and he's having a good look at it. Couldn't resist it, really. Seemed an interesting pose to give it. So I'm going to concentrate on building them up. The only other thing that I'm going to be doing for this squad,
an optional extra, I'm going to have a flamethrower team. Now that I've got to do some kit bashing on. So what I'll do is I'll probably do it like before. I'll break that down into photographs, and I'll show you then. But in the meanwhile, I'll get the rest of the kit out, clean it up, get these two squads together, and then we'll cut to the flamethrower team that I'm going to make. Right, back in a minute. Right, so I've built my engineer squad. Two of them, one in each squad. I've got carrying this bag because I've selected the charge that they can use, and I figured this bag that they're carrying could represent that, the demolition charge. So I've got one in each of my squads carrying one of those. Other than that, the only other thing to say is that one squad is exclusively rifles, whereas the other squad you've got 3 with SMGs, and then the last 2 with a light machine gun. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my attention to the flamethrowing team. And what I've been looking at, if I bring a picture up here, I've got on the Warlord site a picture of I think it's from their American soldiers set, what their flamethrower looks like. Now, I was thinking about that, and you're going to have to bear with me here because I've got to make some changes, but I recently built the veteran Germans, and obviously they've got a flamethrower. Let me bring that right as close as I can get it. You see that? Now you notice how it's got the small bottle next to the big bottle. And on the picture, it's got a big bottle, then a small. So what I was thinking is, I can possibly turn this upside down, slightly reduce the size of that bottle, cut the connecting piece off the top and fit it to the bottom of the little one, and that's basically then going to look exactly like an American flamethrower. And then the other thing that I'm thinking of using, what's this piece called? Let me just get... It's part 17. An M227 signal lamp. You see that? Oh, just hold it like that. Now I'm thinking, with a bit of adaptation, I could turn that into the flame part of the flamethrower. And then going back to the German one, I can use the connecting tubes to connect the two together. Well, that's what I'm thinking anyway. So what I'll do now is, obviously it's going to be very fiddly, so I'll take a few pictures as I'm going through to show you what I've done, and hopefully we can come up with a reasonable flamethrower team out of this. Right, I'll bring you back in a minute. So I've cut out all the pieces that I'm going to need, and basically what I've done is I've took the fire off the German wand, and I've shortened the wand on the American gadget and attached the flame to that. And now I've took the bottom off one bottle and I've stuck it on top of the other one to leave the small one on the side, and then move the valve down underneath it. And then I've connected it with the piece of hose from the German flamethrower.
Now these two arms, I need to cut a section of shoulder out to make the next arm fit round to support it underneath. And that's the flamethrower man done. What I'm going to do now is build up the other member of the team with something meaningful to tie him together, really. So back to my spares, and what I've done is I've cut another spare valve and bottle set from the German kit and took the little bottle off, which I'm going to put on his backpack and then attach the valve to the side, and that's it, and that's my flamethrower team. Now, at the same time, I thought I'd make up another optional team for my second rifle platoon. So both rifle platoons have a bazooka team. Not too complicated, a lot easier than the others. And I've also found a spare bazooka missile that I'm resting on his support mate's backpack, as well as the arm that carries one that comes with the American kit. And they make up my bazooka team. And that'll give my army a little bit of extra protection against tanks.
Right, so I've completed my kit bashed flamethrower team, and I'm pretty pleased with how it's come out. The bottles are probably slightly different size to the American one, but essentially it looks the same, with a little bottle on that side and the big one on the other. And what I've done is I've took the top off another bottle to round that one off where we cut the valve off, and then fitted the valve to the side to run the hose round to that. And then obviously what I had to do then was basically I got a reasonable arm, found a new donor hand to make it a support underneath the flamethrower itself. It looks a bit gooey just here, but that's because I've had to melt a little part of the sleeve on, and what I will do is I'll just, when it's thoroughly dry, I'll lightly sand that down before I prime it, and then you won't see it. But I'm pretty pleased with how that's turned out. And then to make his friend go with it, I used some of the leftover pieces. I had a spare valve from the other setup, so just in case he needed a spare valve or the valve were faulty, I've put that on the side, strapped to his kit bag, and then on top the little bottle as a replacement. And that's just really, it'll signify to me that he is with him, you know, he's his support with the flamethrower. And obviously I've gone for the head with the goggles, and on the other one, the one with the glasses stroke goggles on his face. So that's the pair of them together. So I'm pretty pleased with that. And they'll obviously be the additional unit to go with my engineer squad and the platoon leader. The other thing I did while I was chopping about, if you cast your mind back to this second squad, I've already got 2 additional units. I've got another sniper, and then I've got a forward observer and his mate. But I thought the first squad, first platoon, I'd got a bazooka team, and I thought with all the men that I'm going to have, to only have one bazooka, given that I'm not necessarily going to put a mechanised unit with these, seemed a bit underpowered. So I've actually mocked up another pose for a bazooka man, and then I found on another old sprue a spare bazooka missile, which I've put on his mate's back of his kit bag, and then obviously the normal arm that comes with the American Airborne, holding another spare, and that's obviously going to signify that he goes with him. So that's going to give the first platoon a bazooka man and the second platoon a bazooka man, and I feel that's a lot better. Kit out. I mean, obviously, I'll probably say it again if I've not said it already. I'm building these as, you know, I'm talking about the platoons. But, you know, if you just took them all as straight veterans, chances are that's going to add up to well over 2,000. And the chance of me fielding them all together is probably remote. But nevertheless, by building it like this, I know it's going to build in a lot of flexibility for me to chop and change. You know, like I might decide that I want some of these squads to have 10 or 12 men in. Well, I can, if I'm not using the engineers, I can rob it from that team. You know, so it's just basically giving me a whole load of flexibility. So although it seems that, you know, too large really, with it being over 2,000 points, I'm sure it will be. It's really to give me greater flexibility so I can pick and choose what army I field. Right, so I've gone ahead and put my company commander team together, and this presents an interesting little opportunity because you'll recall that I'm using this, you know, recently released figure by Warlord as Nixon. Bit cheeky really, but you know, that is the endearing memory from the series, that he's after this particular vintage wine all the time. So I thought it was interesting to pose him as Nixon. And the other thing was, I thought the way he'd been painted up on the Warlord site, he did have a little bit of the look of Nixon anyway. But the interesting thing is, you know, provided in the army set is a company commander like this. So obviously I've got him as the company commander. I'm not quite sure what the rank's likely to be. But what I can also do, you're aware that I've got, where is he? This figure of Winters, obviously from the Day of Days. But obviously, if you remember in the series and in history, obviously, the commander that should have been in charge went missing and supposedly died in action. And so Winters quickly got promoted. So what I did is I got the other model of Winters from the Stoessi set, and I thought I could use him for later battles. So I can use the early Winters for anything that's around D-Day, and then after D-Day I can replace this chap with Winters, which interestingly brings Winters and Nixon together in the same crew, which is interesting. And then attached, I mean, because it said you can have up to 5 men, and so I have done. I've actually, Nixon's going to be one of them. The other interesting thing that I can do with Nixon is you've got this option that one officer in the entire force can have intelligence training. So obviously he's, you know, the obvious candidate. So that's going to be him. And obviously for protection, I've got some riflemen. And then attached to that as an optional unit is the other figure that Warlord brought out as a special of Maloney, the priest or parson or whatever you want to call him. He did feature in the series briefly as well. The only thing I've not decided on that yet, because I haven't got any, doesn't fit a traditional base. The 50mm would be way too big. So I don't know whether to get a 40mm lipped base to sit this in, or just use it as it is and treat this edge as the lip. I've not made up my mind on that, so I've left it for now. So that is another of my, well, platoon, if you like. So we've now got 2 rifle platoons, an engineer platoon, and the company commander team. So the next thing I'm going to be looking at is the heavy weapons, and for that, as I've said, I don't know whether I've said it before, but I've got the figure from Stoessi of spears. I'm not saying that's traditionally what he was in charge of, but it's just another way that I can actually use all the figures and bring all of the Band of Brother figures into it. So that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to make him the leader of that platoon, if you like, the heavy weapons platoon. And in the heavy weapons platoon, I've got 2 MMGs and a mortar. And then obviously Spears will have 2 men to back him as well. Right, so I'll crack on with them next, and I'll bring you back in a minute. Right, the interesting thing about this heavy team is that they've made it partly in metal and partly in their cast resin. I'm not surprised probably about the gun, but they've actually made one of the heads, and the hand is cast with the gun on this one. I've gone ahead and dressed this one up and put it in position for how I wanted it, and that'll give me an idea of, you know, where I've got to lay the figures for the next one. But I want to make it slightly different from this. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Obviously the pose has got to be pretty much the same. But, I mean, they look pretty good. I'm, you know, really happy with the detail of the figures. I mean, the metal thing was, you know, quite easy to put together. Just making sure I'd got all their feet and hands on the piece was a bit, because I had to kind of, you know, place figures while I glued other bits in place to make sure that I didn't leave myself short. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press ahead and do the second one. Right, so let's build up this second one. Again, I've still got to make sure that I can get the figures in place. I want to keep them all within the disc, because if I don't, there's a chance I might not, you know, knock an edge off or something. I don't want to do that. Just trim a little bit of flash off that one. Right, so if that's roughly where the gun's got to go, in fact, tell you what, the best thing, let's get the gun glued in place. Right, I think what we can do on this one is we'll have few bricks. I'll just put a few more bricks into this. That should give it the look that they're fighting in rubble. Alright, so all I need to do now is to put their heads in place. Right, let's just glue them in. And the metal one. Right, so that's what it's looking like now. I mean, obviously I'll lose the colour of the brick, but I might make them sandstone anyway. But first of all, I wanted them to be embedded into it. And then I can put, you know, when we've finished them completely, I can put some more basing in here with some grit and sand and whatever. So that's the two submachine guns. Well, submachine guns. MMGs. Right, I'll just tidy this bit up and then we'll get back on and do the mortar team. Right, so we'll have a look at the mortar team and get them set up. It's going to be a fairly simple pose, really. Right, first of all, let's stick the actual tripod bit down. Do. Lift them to one side. That's perfect. Right. Good. Scenery wise, I think most of that's going to be tough. If I was going to put anything, it'd be a few stones and a bit of wood. Yeah, that'll do. Like I say, I'm going to be putting scatter on there anyway. But yeah, I'll do for that one. Right, let me get these tidied up, put all my stones and everything away. What I'll do before I bring you back is I'll make up the 2 men that go with spears, you know, as the supports to the leader of the platoon. And I've also got a spotter to make up to go with the mortar. So I'll get those done. And then when we come back, we can start looking at the artillery platoon. Right, back in a second. Right, so I'm afraid in the end I had to jump forward. So I'm sorry I didn't build these on camera. But there is a big reason why. This one particularly. You see the strut that comes away from this anti-tank gun? Well, they'd actually sent me 2 of the right-hand ones and no left-hand. So I've had to do some quite major surgery on it to cut the end off it, to turn it round, totally reconfigure the end piece on it, and then do some other minor alterations to make it look the same as this one, but in mirror image. So it was very, very fiddly. And then on top of that, what I hadn't noticed is the pin on the end of the wheel, where the wheel should slot on, had actually been broken off in the packet short. So I had to fix that as well and drill and pin it to make it work. And the same with the base mounting had also broken off. So I had to drill and put a mini pin in that to sit the main part of the gun on it. So it was a bit of a nightmare, really. I mean, if I'd not been in a hurry to get it done, I probably would have, you know, sent it back or asked them to send me out the right parts. But it is a rare thing. It's not very often that Warlord do that, so I just let it go and persevered with it. This one was more straightforward. I mean, I could have left that one, but because I'd had the hassle with that, I thought, no, I'm going to press ahead with them and make sure they're right. And then the final thing that I did do is I built up, it's Lipton is going to be in charge of this heavy weapon, not heavy weapon, the artillery section. I know it's not real for what he did in Band of Brothers or in reality, but it's the only way I can do what I said I was going to do. So if I just go over this now and review it for you. As you know, I've got 1 rifle platoon under Dick Winters, and it's that, you know, the one that came out of Hang Tough. I've used that figure for that. I've also managed to put Garnier in there as one of the squad sergeants, and Bull Randleman as the sergeant for this rifle squad, and they're under Winters. I've got a bazooka team. I've got the medic, which is Rowe, and I've got a sniper team. And then the second rifle platoon, again, I've managed to feed into that, and I've got Buck as the leader of that group. And then I've got Harry Welsh as the leader of the engineer platoon, and I've got Lutz as the sergeant of one of those platoons. And so that's 2 rifle squads, an engineer squad, and several extras. And then the last bit where I've got them in, I managed to get the special medic figure into this one. And this is my higher command team where you can have 5 men with it. And I've managed to get Nixon in there as well. And then I've used the Stoessi figure of Dick Winters as a possible, switch over. So after the initial D-Day landing, when he effectively became the commander, I could then move him into this and replace him in that section. And I've got him as an alternate with one of the provided commanders. And then I've got my heavy weapon team, and I've got Spears leading that. The other figure, as we know, is from the 82nd, so that's only in there because I'm painting it up. And then, as I say, this final section that I've built under Lipton, which is my artillery section. And then the only other figure over, they give you an additional leader, which I've just made up because he can be an alternate leader somewhere. So I've made him up ready. And that's basically used every figure and everything from the 30 box and the complete army box. And as I've said, there's no way that I'm likely to run all of them together. But I figure by doing it like this, it's given me all the options when I need them to build up any, particular squad that I want from it. So that brings this to a close, and I've got my new American Airborne Easy Company built. We all know the next bit is the painting, so that's going to have to wait for a bit. I've still got my Canadians that are waiting to be painted as well, so... But we'll get there, and it's another one off the list. So, I hope you found something interesting about the way that I'm doing. I hope it gives you ideas for how you can build up your army. And if you have liked it, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And maybe even subscribing for when the next video drops. Right, thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.